The Grand Coalition government was barely 3 months old when troubles began. Then Lance Minister James Orengo raised a red flag, accusing his finance counterpart Amos Kimunya of selling the Grand Regency Hotel unprocedurally and at what they termed as throwaway price. Then the PNU wing quickly crafted and sponsored a motion against their own man for him to be censured. Then that afternoon, the substantive speaker, Kenneth Marende, opted not to preside over the session, paving way for his deputy. What was at play? The Kimunya censure politics, the untold story. My name is Duncan Haemba.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable Committee.
July 3rd, 2008, a cold Thursday afternoon. One that began quite ordinary for the then Kenya's finance minister, the vibrant Amos Mohinga Kimunya. The day was to turn dramatic for the KPP member of parliament and close ally of then President Mwai Kibaki.
As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say no. No.
That drama in parliament later on would prove to be the beginning of an interesting patch for the young coalition government under President Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga.
Stop corruption at the treasury, Kimunya must go. To end impunity in this country, Kimunya must go. To repossess the Hotel Grand Regency, Kimunya must go.
The National Assembly was debating a vote of no confidence against Kimunya, and the sponsor of that censure motion was then Ikolomani Member of Parliament, Dr. Boni Khalwale, who was dramatic and unapologetic as he fired political salvos against the besieged finance minister live on television.
How I wish the Minister of Finance had responded to the issues that I raised. I itemized one by one. Instead of responding, the House has heard you, you have simply shifted blame. Oh, Grand Regents, oh, Orengo knew. Oh, Grand Regents, oh, they told the Prime Minister. Oh, IPO, oh, oh, oh. No.
11 years down the line, we revisit that controversial afternoon sitting of the 10th Parliament.
Actually, I never saw it coming, and I knew there was lots of maneno, from the weekend. Because it started by some people saying, oh, the hotel has been sold. I had a meeting in Mombasa, and I actually said, no, there is no such sale. In fact, if there's such a thing, we have been given instructions. I'll be giving an instruction that they should not sell for less than 2.5 billion.
Kimunya now says that the matter was being handled at the cabinet level if an assurance he had received from Prime Minister Raila Odinga was anything to go by.
After the weekend, I got a bit concerned. So on a Monday, I went to see the then Prime Minister and said, I saw your side of the party, of the government, the ODM team, I think it was in Githunguri, Kiambu. We studied in Githunguri's constituency, and they had some issues, some manenos that were talked there. So I said, I want to understand where exactly are we talking of source. We're in the same government, yet I'm seeing some of their colleagues talking from a different page.
So Thursday came. It was almost a full house. It was also a big unity test for the Grand Coalition government that was only 3 months old, and perhaps Dr. Boni Khalwale's moment to shine, since there was no opposition party in the House.
Mr. Vice President, take it easy. The motion is not against your government. It is against an individual in the government. You have nothing to lose. We are making your government look even better.
I prepared well, but more importantly, I have a way. When I was in Parliament, I had a way. An easy way, there's an easy way about me of interacting with colleagues.
Kenneth Otiato Marende was the substantive speaker, but for unclear reasons, he opted not to preside over the crucial sitting, whose political stakes were high. Instead, he passed the baton to his deputy, then Lagdera legislator Farah Maalim, to take charge.
For two reasons. One was the Speaker preferred to demonstrate impartiality to the letter. So he was very reluctant on such very contentious things. And the difference is that you have to understand the structure of Parliament. The Speaker is an ex-officio member. The Deputy Speaker, who, by the way, wields as much power as the Speaker, a fact that was lost on most Kenyans, is a member of Parliament. You're allowed to take sides. The Speaker, when there's a tie, only has a casting vote. But if the Deputy Speaker is on the chair, he has an original vote as a member of a certain constituency, in my case, Lagdera, and he has a casting vote again, which means he has got two votes. In this particular one, I was out of the country, as a matter of fact. I came in that afternoon. I had traveled on a parliamentary business outside of the country. And I was told by the Speaker while I was out of the country, he called me and told me he wants me to preside over that, which I did.
At that time, Halwale was the chairman of the powerful Public Accounts Committee, but was coalescing around a group calling itself Opposition Caucus within the coalition, since PNU and ODM had shared power and there was no government side or backbench in Parliament. It now emerges that the masterminds of Kimunya's political tribulations that afternoon were from his own PNU wing of the coalition, after all.
I succeeded big time, but I don't think if I was doing it today, I would have succeeded. I was lucky I was practicing those kind of politics of integrity in a unique parliament. A parliament so unique that some of the colleagues of Honorable Kimunya, including Mother Karua and others, were in my support. So it was a unique opportunity.
The sponsorship of the motion and even the lineup of the speakers was very suspect. In fact, the motion had come from Kenya, right? If truth be told. And the Halwara was just a carrier of the motion.
But the reality of the matter is that that was an internal PNU war, if you remember very well. Because Boni Khalwale, who was the sponsor of the motion, was not from ODM. He was not from the opposition, he was from the government side. And it was a very interesting motion because it went through the motions, it went through all the process. It actually has to go, first of all, to the House Business Committee. It goes to the Speaker's office. It's filed. It's brought to the House Business Committee. The House Business Committee now prioritizes it and decides to give it time. So, and the chair of the House Business Committee was the Vice President at that time.
The Grand Regency Hotel, now renamed Laiko Regency, was at the center of the political fracas. The Central Bank of Kenya was selling the hotel to the Libyan government in order to recover about 2.5 billion shillings, owned to it by the hotel's former owners Kamlesh Patni and one of his companies, the Uhuru Highway Development Limited. 2.5 billion was considered to be atrociously low for the five-star hotel.
The only thing that was happening on is that I misled the House that the sale had not taken place, right? Where I knew the sale was in process, right? So it's nothing like whether the sale was good or bad, that I misled the House that the sale had not taken place. And I went to them and I told them, look, when do you consider a sale of property to have taken place? Yeah? Is it when people start negotiating or when there is exchange of documentation and the sale has been registered?
The August House was charged that afternoon. The tension was palpable. the Kipipiri lawmaker was clearly a marked man for political demolition.
Extremely charged. They seem to have done their homework very well. He hardly had any friends in the house that time. Hardly had any friends in the house. And poor guy, they went for him like a lynch mob. And, cut him into pieces on the floor of the house. And eventually, again, the motion sailed through. There was no contest in the motion. It was not a closed motion.
And I got to realize the goings on in the house. Or people saying, you made so much, we were told you made so much money, but you did not give a part of it to us. We could have helped you, right? You did not lobby us. You did not do ABCD. And those things are things I never, I wasn't used to doing things like that. So you expect, as a professional, you expect the truth will prevail, yeah? But obviously in politics, it's a different ballgame. And I started getting, to appreciate the difference between political issues and professional issues, right? And since that time, at least I've known that when you're caught up in a similar situation, how do you approach your colleagues, yeah? Not necessarily by paying them, but at least you need to get as many allies as possible to see the truth, which is what my detractors did. They ganged up and found me at my most vulnerable. You just finished the budget, you're looking at balancing these numbers, you are busy with meetings at the Treasury, you have no time to even come to Parliament to lobby MPs, and you are ambushed, yeah? And the ambushers know exactly what they are doing. And I meet some of them here, and they keep telling me, they had a whole planning night in the bar here, yeah, to plan who will say what, where, but we learn.
What helped me also was Kimunya himself. Kimunya has the burden of being the typical African big man. He suffers from what I call the African big man syndrome. So when he got into that office of Minister for Finance, I think he was also rubbing the wrong side of even colleagues in cabinet. Minister for Finance, how government works. You might not be Matiang'i, yeah, a de facto leader, but Minister for Finance is actually de facto leader of the cabinet amongst, or let me say, de facto prefect. Because all ministers have to go to him. He controls the purse. So it got into Kimunya, and Kimunya just helped me. He had stepped on people's toes, the members of parliament and what have you.
Oh, Kimunya had gotten too close to Kibaki for anybody else's comfort there. You get my point? I think the only person who was on his side who was willing to assist him was Saitoti. I can't remember anybody else who came out of his way to fight for Kimunya that time.
Then twists and more turns. Speaker Marende dodging to chair the sitting was not the only thing out of the ordinary.
Long and short of it is that an irregular motion was brought on the floor of the House. It had not matured. It was against the standing orders. But the Speaker of the day allowed it to continue, right? And at some point, I just realized these guys are just making allegations of allegations. There's no paper, there's no evidence being tabled. And I asked that I be given the opportunity to explain to the House. And I explained the issues, and you expect people are understanding, and it was all quiet. And then, when it was time for voting, I was surprised that the whole, of the front bench, and people just kept quiet, yeah? Some eventually said later they were not quite sure they understood what was happening. Others obviously knew what was happening or were part of it. People started calling for, I should resign now that has happened. And I was telling myself, why am I resigning? What have I done? Who has brought in evidence? Huh?
Game Member of Parliament at the time, Washington Jakoyo Midio, was set to be the seconder of Halwale's motion, but was replaced with Budalangi Member of Parliament Ababu Namwamba without his knowledge.
We had agreed that I was going to be seconded by Jacoyo Milio. But as we approached debate, what started running in the House that you cannot be too sure on whether you'll even get a seconder. So the best thing I could do was to pick on somebody who I was sure of 100%. Not that I was having any doubt about Jacoyo Milio, but Ababu is very brilliant, he is very articulate, and he is very principled. Make no mistake about Ababu. So when I told him, he told me I'll prepare. So we went there, Jacoyo knowing that he's going to second, but I knew I had a fallback for Ababu. But when I saw how the House had taken the motion, I knew I needed an equally eloquent speaker to keep it at that high level. And Ababu did not disappoint.
When called upon to defend himself, a besieged Kimunya was also spitting fire. He accused his colleagues in cabinet for throwing him under the bus. Cabinet ministers led by Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Kimunya says he had assured him that they would join him in parliament and set the record straight. Odinga was a no-show.
The Prime Minister was supposed to be there, kept on calling, he'll be there in the next few minutes, he'll be there in the next few minutes, because they kept on informing me on the chair there, and he never came. He never came. The guy who came was Kalonzo Musyoka.
After that, everything went quiet. But we discussed with the president, and we said the best thing is I step aside. He gets an independent commission of inquiry. And this is the second time. I think this is only second, after the Jonjo Commission. This is the only other time a commission of inquiry was actually set up by the president to look at the truth. Yeah? Because the allegations were bordering on so many things, and finance has a big bearing on the stability of the economy, relations with the donors, and so many other people. And it was important to get the truth.
A commission of inquiry was established to investigate the minister because he had refused to throw in the towel.
Said, if there's one thing I will not do and I will never do, I would rather die rather than resign. But I'm willing to step aside, right, to allow for a commission of inquiry.
It now emerges that at the center of Kimunya's censure was 2012 Mwai Kibaki succession politics. Kimunya had been seen as Kibaki's blue-eyed boy within PNU since Uhuru Kenyatta at the time was a member of the KANU party.
So where are we when it's very clear President Kibaki has nominated Uhuru Kenyatta as a deputy prime minister, Kimunya as finance minister, so he's giving a certain direction in terms of who are his preferred people and where are the rest of us. So there's lots of intrigues that came from that direction, and as I was together later on from some of the people, even as they started agitating that since when I stepped down, that now that he's gone, can we have a replacement from, and names started being floated. Almost immediately when I'm still like, Koka is still sitting. Then there was also the third angle that in the so-called Nusumkata government, as we called it, the Grand Coalition government, the ODM had actually declared they would want the finance docket. And President Kibaki was very firm that on that one there was no negotiation.
The Kipipiri legislator was a senior minister, courtesy of the powerful docket he held. So why didn't PNU try and save face for Kibaki's side of the coalition government?
The promoter of the motion itself is from PNU, Boni Khalwale. The motion was taken through the House Business Committee, where PNU had numbers bigger than ODM. And the person chairing that is leader of the government business, leader of the House Business Committee. But the leader of the government business was there, Vice President. So basically, they had all the capacity, the power, the authority to defy this thing and put it back as far back as they wanted.
Funny enough, the same speaker who kind of was in the chair at the controversial discussion, yeah, was the same speaker who, having seen things from a different angle, because we sat and I explained to him this is exactly what's happened, and he saw things from a different angle and he could see all the fitina and everything that was in it, was now very supportive of me, right?
Parliament is a quasi-judicial body. It has a judicial, it's there, you are presumed to be innocent until proven guilty, or whatever. You are supposed to have the best of chance. You are supposed to be dealt with in accordance with the rules and the traditions. But here were people who wanted to go on a lynch mob kind of an attitude against Kimunya. So I refused it. You see the irony. The first time I refused for this motion to be deferred, which Kimunya felt he was aggrieved. The second time I refused for that thing to be tabled on the floor of the House because it has not been brought to my office and I had not signed it.
Intrigues surrounding the Kimunya censure continue to play out, despite stepping aside to pave way for investigations by a commission of inquiry into the saga led by former Chief Justice Abdul Majid Koka. Another parliamentary committee on finance, planning and trade led by the then Nambale Member of Parliament Chris Okemo began running a parallel probe. But there was a catch. Time was running out and Parliament was set to adjourn for the Christmas break, yet the Okemo committee was not ready. On the other hand, the Koka Commission was almost ready to present its report to President Kibaki. It turns out there is an untold story of PNU insiders at that time who are pushing for the Finance Committee to indict Kimunya and wanting Okemo's team to table their report before the Koka Commission did.
But the tradition also holds that this thing must be brought to you within 2 hours, at least 2 hours before. So I called them and I told them, listen, if you don't, I will not allow you to lay it on the floor of the House, on the table. I will not. Then they ran around, very hastily trying to bind this together, to lay it on and to defeat the time, because now it was no longer feasible the parliamentary session would be extended. They sneaked it into the pile of, or rather the documents, when I actually had sat on the chair. And then Chris wants to lay that report on the floor of the House. I told him, Chris, no. The rules are very clear. You can't lay it on the floor of the House.
Amos Kimunya was later reinstated into cabinet and handed the Ministry of Trade, where he served until March 2013. He lost his Kipipiri seat in the 4th March 2013 general election and was out in the political cold for a period of 5 years before winning the seat back in 2017. He is the current vice chairman of the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Education. Duncan Hemba, The Untold Story.